third presentation for our camp meeting. Let's open with a word of prayer. Holy God, we thank you that we have the privilege of being here alive at this critical moment in Earth's history. We believe the culmination of so many things is happening or being fulfilled before our eyes. Help us to have a clearer understanding of what's unfolding before us. May we take this opportunity to put the cares and worries of our lives away for a moment and sit before your feet to learn. In Jesus' name, Amen. Just a reminder for those online, we're only having one study today. If you check the roster, we have a second meeting later in the evening. For those of you who are able to join us, I hope that you do. So, yesterday was our introductory studies for our camp. And for those of you at the camp, you have the board work. I've sent that to you all. So, what I wanted to do is for us to have a working understanding of the power that opposes God's kingdom. We see that power being described in many places in the Bible. But I focused our attention on Revelation 17 yesterday. And the reason for that was because it seems to me that chapter gives a clarity to that power that no other story does. And what's significant about Revelation 17 is that it describes that singular enemy as being comprised of two separate and independent entities or powers. If we don't understand that, we're missing an important part of Bible prophecy. So we need to be really clear that there are two independent, separate elements. I want to remind us that this is not a detailed study on Revelation 17 or any other chapter. So things that I have assumed to be fact, I haven't proven or demonstrated. There's a representative group here that's large enough that the assumptions that I've made that we all agree on certain elements or certain points, if you don't agree on those points, you need to tell me. As an example, I stated as a fact that the beast in Revelation 17 is a state power. We didn't prove that in class because I'm assuming you all agree with that. If anybody doesn't, if you have some alternative view, you need to voice that because I don't want anybody to assume that I'm correct in that conclusion. Okay, everybody okay with that so far? Good. Curtis?
Um, um, is does that assumption include a basis for what we consider state power to be?
No,
Because
I haven't.
okay,
We haven't defined what state power is. Is or means different?
just just when you say is, I think of who and not necessarily means, which would be the characteristics of it, but it's not important.
Okay. There's a difference between means and is. Okay. So we didn't read any verses. So Revelation 17, verse 3, it says that there's a woman who sits on a beast. It says a lot about her. And in verse 2, it talks about with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. So through a series of mental gymnastics, I'm saying that the kings of verse 2 is the beast of verse 3. So if anybody disagrees with that, all these conversations are meaningless. Okay, so I'm assuming everybody's okay with that. And I'm suggesting that a king is a government or a state. And that doesn't define the nature of what that state is. I'm not saying they're always monarchies. Does that answer your question? Does anybody else have any questions or concerns or disagreements? Okay, so I'm assuming everybody is okay with the definitions that I've used for those symbols. Yesterday, I can't remember what the context was, but I suggested if anybody has found any studies or knows of them, they should be posting them on the forum, and nobody has, I don't think. Can anybody remember what the context of that was? Was that the daily? Yes. So it was on the daily. So I'm going to repeat the thing now. If anybody knows any good studies on Revelation 17, then they could share that on the forum too. So that if you're not familiar with how we construct all of this logic, those studies may hopefully help you. If you're joining us online and you're aware of that material, send it to me and I'll forward it onto the forum. Okay, so that's why we're in Revelation 17, because he explains that singular power, that singular entity, as being comprised of two elements, two parts. And whether or not we like the ramifications or implications of those symbols, the ones that are given, um, at least in the King James, is a beast and a woman. So we said that the beast is state. So yesterday I didn't give any justification for that, and I just have now. It's this idea of kings or rulers. So the woman is initially a lot more complicated. So to help us to understand who or what the woman is, I try to give an explanation of the construction of Revelation 17 and other chapters too. So I'm not going to fill in the blanks here, but you're all familiar with that graphic. So what you have to be really careful about, and so many people get tripped up on this, is that you can't use the dispensational application. Can finish it? To define the whole or complete story. And if you read commentators or Alan White as an example of a commentator, perhaps even many of our teachers, they tend to focus on the dispensational view at the expense of understanding or properly explaining the panoramic or overall view. And if you do that, you begin to expose yourself or you begin to become liable of making mistakes. Does anybody need me to explain any more on that point? You need to be able to juggle both points. If you don't do that, if you don't do that, you'll end up making mistakes. And I suspect that with the many opinions of what's happening today, is because people have fallen into that trap. So what we began to try to do, or I tried to do yesterday, was to say we all understand Ellen White's perspective of Revelation 17. Even if he doesn't explain it explicitly. When she speaks about a threefold union, for example, it's her explanation of getting that singular power and breaking it down into components. This discussion is not about whether or not Ellen White's application was right or wrong. Most people, if you've been listening to my presentations, know that I think Ellen White was wrong. But we're not doing that. When you go to Ellen White, she will focus her attention where we focused our attention. On the woman. And she will tell you that woman is the Catholic Church. In connection with what she called Protestantism, which has apostatized. So she calls it apostate Protestantism. To say it simply, I think, the apostasy that they have committed, the Protestants, is to go back to the same ideology or theology that the Catholic Church has. Ideology. Let me say, I won't use the word ideology, the same thinking. So she speaks about this church power and how it controls the government. And the focus of her attention when it speaks about the government is the United States. That church power, she speaks about in three parts: spiritualism, Catholicism, Protestantism. My point in all of that is that she speaks about a dispensational view of prophecy. Now, I don't know where all of you stand individually. If you think you agree that it's a dispensational view, hopefully, because the United States didn't exist before 1798. Prophetically speaking. So you know it's a dispensational explanation she's giving. So the question you have to ask yourselves, which we're not doing here, is was she ever correct in her explanation of who the woman was? Or was her explanation of who the woman was correct for her time, the 19th century, edging into the 20th? And it's and the application of who the woman was has changed as you enter into the 21st century. Which means we have to reconsider the application of those symbols. Or was she always wrong? Whichever way you go, it seems to me, I suspect to most of us, that her explanation or her application of those symbols are not fit for purpose today. I suspect not everybody agrees with that statement. Does anybody disagree with what I've just said? Do you still think when you read The Great Controversy that when she explains who those symbols are, that she's correct? For us today. Anybody? So for those on board online, nobody's put their hand up. So that means we have to, if we believe we're at the end of the world, we have to come up with new explanations of what these symbols mean. And I think that's harder than we think. I think it's a lot harder. Many presentations or speakers that you've heard have done that. They've taken that bold step and defined what those symbols mean. So what I want to do is to help us to try to understand if those explanations are correct or not. And it seems to me the only safe way to do that is to go back to a generic or panoramic understanding of those symbols. And then try to understand what their end time application would be. So hopefully that explains why we're doing this. So I'm going to put a tick next to state, but don't let that deceive you, because I think we will need to go back to that and understand what a state is in a much more detailed fashion. So you'll remember if you go back to presentation number one, we explained what a woman was. And we went back, I'm going to say to the spirit prophecy, and we said it was church in agreement with inspiration. Andres?
Question. I don't know if I understood what you said about Ellen White being incorrect. If you meant if it was that question that you pointed out, whether she was correct for her dispensation, but not for us, or if it was something else.
Well done. So if this is Ellen White, she creates a line that begins when? 1798. And then she says, we are in the time of the end. So the time of the end has two elements to it. It's a beginning of a history and it's also a dispensation. And the end of that, I'm going to say, is the 19th to the 20th century. So that's one point. And then the other one is that it's to do with a 19th to 20th century USA. So her whole modeling, which means her explanation, her understanding, is focused in her dispensation. Is that right or wrong? That's correct. She has to do that. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So she's correct to do that. And now she's forced to do something else, which is what? She's going to turn to Revelation 13, of course, and she's going to be forced to do what? It's on the board. She's going to be forced to turn her attention to what's happening in the USA. And that's not our USA, that's her USA. And those two USAs are fundamentally different because the world is fundamentally different. There is no UN, there's no internet, there's no globalism. It's a very different world. So when she does that, there are only a few power brokers. There are only a few people that are really powerful, not people, entities. So I'm not saying who's more powerful than others, but for sure you're going to have France, the UK or England, USA by definition, and then Catholicism. And Catholicism is coming from, depending on what you want to talk, what you want to say about that, from different directions. So there's the church itself, and then there's all those Catholic people, which are whom? Who are the Catholic people in this story? The Irish. So there's a whole undercurrent element which we understand now about immigration that's going on there. So the question is, as she sees the push by Catholicism without defining what that is, what the Catholicism is, there's a struggle between what the United States was supposed to be and Catholicism as it pushes itself into the into American life or American culture. And there are elements in the government, in the church, and in society that are Protestants, but now they're pro-Catholic. And the pro-Catholicism that they're pushing is the Sabbath. So she's going to develop this whole Sabbath fight between what America should be, a lamb, and what America is fast becoming, a dragon. Are you okay with that, Andres? So if she's correct on all of that, I think we all agree that sometime after her death, we have 2 world wars, or 3, if you consider the Cold War. We get to where we are now, and that story is no longer relevant. So you can say, because of the 126 years of darkness, we're in a new dispensation, a new time of the end, and now we're going to have a new version. So we'll do what we used to do, which is this: 1798, 1989, the end, and the end. And this is the Spirit of Prophecy version, and this is our version. And we used to teach, the Time of the End magazine teaches, that this version was correct and our version is correct. In fact, our version is built upon hers. It used to be. So let me say that this is the old, and this is the Sabbath. This is the Sabbath version story. We've created a new one now, a new narrative. Everything looks the same. And this is the new one. And what do we put here? What's the title? Okay, so we'll just do equality. Did someone say something besides equality? Okay, so we'll do equality. Someone said something? I'll go with equality. And we're saying we're correct. And now you have to ask yourself, what about her version? I'm saying, I'm not saying I'm the first, but I don't know many people who have said it until perhaps recently. So Ellen White's story was the Sabbath story, and so was ours. And now our story is equality. You have to ask yourself, what was the story of 19th century America? Was it Ellen White's story, her version, but it just didn't happen for whatever reason? Or was she just wrong that it wasn't a Sabbath issue ever? So does everybody understand the two options? I'm suggesting that it was never a Sabbath one, and it was always an equality one. But that's not germane to our study. It's not relevant to our study. And I'm not making that, some kind of test question for us. Does that answer your question, Andreas? Okay. So maybe during lunch or something, or this afternoon, we can discuss where you stand on that, because it is important, but it's not relevant to our study. Okay, so I'm going to, I've partitioned that bit off. Go back to the woman, church. So we have culture, religion, doctrinal, and nationalism. That's what we had yesterday. That's what all those dots are. And then we distilled all of those things into ideology. That's where we got to yesterday. And just at that level, I'm suggesting that ideology is a much better answer or definition than church. So we moved on past that. But just at that level, we have an ideology. I'll just say a way of thinking, which is the woman. And then we have a state. And those two elements comprise the enemy. So we know some things, that this ideology must be bad in some shape or form, because it's the enemy, it's against God. So we would assume that, if you don't want to say that you know it as a fact. The symbol of Revelation 17 teaches us that the woman rides the beast, controls the beast. So in the past, we would say that the church controls the state. And so now I'm suggesting that some kind of ideology, some kind of way of thinking controls the state. So we got that far. So that was study one. And then when we looked at study 2, we felt that we had to develop that thinking, that we wanted to begin to at least put a placeholder or a marker to say it has to be the ideology, and I'm going to say for now, of something. So we added the little phrase of something. So we had a lengthy discussion to say that's not only is it not sufficient, it's not accurate. Because something can actually mean anything. So if you've thought about it since yesterday's class, if you take the concept of control, which comes from the symbol of ride, the woman rides the beast. I think it says sits on the beast. If anybody can give us the verse for that, I'll put it down. So if she controls the beast, just shout out the verse if someone. So if she controls it, then she must be something different. Logically, that means it cannot be the ideology of the state. Whatever the something is, it cannot be state. So that statement here is insufficient, which means it's wrong. Curtis? So we got to the place where we thought we would have to refine that even further. We said that verbally, but we didn't change the board work to reflect that. Curtis?
I was under the impression that when we use the word something, we are delegating it to something specific as just the meaning of the word something. And we didn't write anything because anything would imply something broad, unspecific.
So that's what I thought. That's why I put something instead of anything. Because to me, logically, it couldn't be anything. So are you happy with that? Okay. Did everybody understand what he's just said? Put your hands up if you didn't understand. Okay, so we've got a couple of people who didn't understand what you meant. So let's forget state, nothing to do with that. Why does it say something, not anything? You can explain it, then give an example, perhaps.
Thing and something mean two different things. The definition of the words are different. When you say something, the meaning is that you haven't specified what that thing is, but it's something specific. Whereas when you say anything, it's unspecified. It could be generic. So that's why I think using the word something there is appropriate for the step that we're on.
I'll give an example.
So an example would be, if I tell you, think of something red. There's going to be a very specific thing that I haven't. Yeah.
Is the red ideology? Everybody got that? In the example, the red is the ideology.
That something is going to be a specific entity. Now, if I say to you, think of anything, you're free to choose what that thing could be. It's any.
So I just add, when you put something, you're forced to give something that's contextually correct. You can't come up with a silly answer. So in the context of, if this is politics and religion or society, whatever that thing is, it has to be relevant to the context of the subject that we are dealing with. Was that okay? Yeah. Charity?
I just wanted to ask, woman is the figure, and I was saying woman is the figure, and the other side is the application, ideology of something.
So they've already translated it. Just want to make sure that figure means symbol.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's why I said that when they translate, they said symbol. Just wanted to just clarify.
So when we're saying ideology of something, it has to be an application. So we can't use the symbol. When we are saying the ideology of something, does it have to be an application, or can we use woman? I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, can we do that?
Who did you speak to when you said, can we do that? Someone said something, or?
Can we say the ideology of the woman, or it doesn't work? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but did you speak to somebody? Go ahead.
That's what I asked. Do you mean that you say
Yeah,
the ideology of the woman?
No,
That was what she meant.
Answer, yes or no? Yes, you can say the ideology of the woman, or no. Anybody, just put their hand up. Yes, put your hand up if it's yes or no. Or if you don't understand, put both.
You said put your hand up for yes or no.
Can you put woman here on the right hand? I'm pointing here. We got You're right. We've got woman here. Can you put woman here? The ideology of the woman. No? We got no. What question? Okay, I thought that was straightforward. It's not. No.
Yesterday with the daily. I said the ideology of the daily.
So no.
It's a no, yeah.
Well, a couple of no's. Question. Are we going to be sure? I don't want to, because it might be relevant. Wait, the mic's coming. Too late.
I think I didn't actually understand what she's asking.
You don't.
I don't understand it.
Justina does. What are they talking about?
I think Charity is asking if, because she asked if the woman is the symbol, and
Sorry.
so can we say on the right hand side is the ideology of the woman? That's what I understand. Is that what you're saying?
When we substitute something, do you agree, Bessing, that we'll put the ideology of Meta or the ideology of Barclays Bank? We put an enter thing there. You agree with that? The Adventist Church, anything. Is it correct to do that?
Correct to just substitute something with a concrete entity.
Meta, Adventist Church, you agree
Yes.
that would be the right thing to do?
Yes.
The woman symbol equals the ideology of the SDA Church in some example, in some story. That's all good, legitimate. So the only question they're asking is, he said yes online. Could we say the woman equals the ideology of the woman?
Oh, no, I don't think we can do that.
Okay. So I think you could do it. It's not illegal, but it doesn't do anything. Yeah. It becomes almost a circular argument or a tautology. It doesn't, it's just repeating the statement. So no, you wouldn't do that. So that's why I've got there the symbol on the left and the real actual thing on the right. So we have to have the word something, not anything. If you disagree with that, put your hand up. Andres? You disagree, yeah?
Yeah. I don't see a reason. I mean, other from the, if you're gonna take symbols from the parable or something, but why can't you have ideology alone?
It's a different question. What we're saying is, not can you have ideology on its own. If you put something else, does it have to be something as opposed to anything? Can't put anything. That's the issue.
If you can put ideology alone, that would mean that you could put of anything as well.
You think you can put the word anything?
The something is included in the anything. So yes.
Everybody knows something is a subset of anything. I'm asking, can you put anything? You're saying yes.
Yeah.
So do you agree you have to use the context of the story? And what's the thing? What's the idea or element that defines the context? Anybody? Just shout out one word. It's on the board. What's the defining thing that's going to help you to answer this point? It's on the board. Don't guess. Control. If you don't have an element of control, you've made a mistake. So, anything. The ideology of rabbits control monarchs. Do you think that's reasonable?
It controls moments. No.
So if you don't, I don't know if they heard that.
No.
So if you don't think that's reasonable, I could go on to thousands of things and you'd always say no to them. So you can't have the word anything. It can only be something. And we didn't put the word something relevant or something specific. Because it has to be controlled by the story, even though the story is symbolic.
So I understand that point, but I thought
Agree with that point, not understand it?
no.
So you can put rabbits.
No.
So you agree with the point.
No.
Don't.
Because I thought we were going from abstract generic things to more specific things. So you don't need to prove that in an abstract thing that it will work for every example.
I don't know what abstract means because it's not a word we've used.
Generic.
What we've said is, someone give me the movement definition of prophecy. Approximate rough one. Who's going to do that? No, I mean the current one that never changed. With a mic would help. Do you know it, Blessing? Or
Yes, I do.
Timothy? Go ahead.
Okay, figurative delineation of events that leads to the close of this world's history.
Okay. So Charity said figure before, and I swapped it back to symbol. So it's not an abstract, it's actually a symbolic representation of literal things. Go ahead then.
I thought we were going from a generic thing, like what could the woman be, to restricted to what things it couldn't be, like we were taking away things. Like maybe an example. If I say an apple is a red fruit, I mean, an apple is a fruit, that's more generic. And then a red apple would be less generic.
Sure. But the generic answer has to fit, which means you couldn't put anything there. Because anything means everything, and everything will not be a correct generic answer.
As in, a fruit is anything. An apple is anything.
If you go with what with the story itself, the something or the anything, the entity has to have the ability to control rulers. You agree with that?
Yeah,
So it cannot be anything.
sure. But you don't need to put the something because it's already implicit in that it has to control the state, has to have the ability.
I don't know if we're talking at cross purposes. We're not discussing the necessity of adding the phrase of something. If we took that as a necessity, we have to add something after the word ideology. You can only put something, not anything. Do you agree with that?
You can only put something, not anything.
You
Yes.
can, okay. So if you're saying you don't agree with adding words afterwards, that wasn't what we were discussing. So if you're saying just put the word ideology, is that what you're saying? You don't want
Yes.
to add anything afterwards.
Yes.
Once you got to the place the woman equals ideology, you're okay at that point?
Yes.
What you do after that?
Define which ideology, what ideology it is.
Pride. What would you do then?
Identify which state is controlled by pride.
So that pride that is now going to control the state, if the state is a thing that can have ideas or emotions, that pride cannot be the state's pride, can it? Or you're saying it can?
No, it can't.
It cannot?
It's an ideology. If you're saying pride is an ideology, then it's,
Pride is an ideology.
yeah.
So is this a story that a state becomes proud? Or is this a story that some entity that is prideful controls the state?
I don't know.
That's where we're at. It's either one or the other. Because the former option is there's still only one element,
Sure.
that woman is not an entity, a power. It's a concept or an idea that the states have taken on all by themselves. They woke up and they said, we're going to reinvent ourselves and be new people, new things, whatever they are.
Former, you mean like the what we thought before this class, or what do you mean former?
No. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I said, I asked, what does he mean by former?
I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear?
I didn't hear what you said.
No, I asked like, what did you mean by former? Like, our former.
No, not us. The monarch. The monarch wakes up one day, says, I'm going to be something different than what I was before.
Okay.
Or someone comes into the monarch's life and says, you're going to start living this way.
Okay.
Which one do you go for?
Based on the.
Based upon whatever you want to base it upon. I'm not asking you to defend it. I just want to know which one you go for.
I would have to guess. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, I could.
Okay, so go to the great controversy, and Ellen White will tell you there's a union of entities. Does that take your guess away?
Yes, probably
So now which one would you go for?
with the entity.
So if you go for the entity, then once you go from ideology, and then if you went to the step of what the ideology was, which I don't think would be the second step, might be, but you'd have to ask yourself what?
What that entity is? Or
The idea, who has that ideology?
other than the state.
It's not other than the state doesn't have it.
Okay.
Because if you say other than the state, that means the state must already have that same ideology, and it doesn't.
Okay.
If you follow Ellen White.
Mm.
So if you agree with all of those steps, it seems to me that you've agreed that you have to put the phrase of something. You're forced to do that as you develop your thought processes.
Yeah. And why then not do just this something? Why do, because in the end it would be the entity controlling. The state.
Before we move on, is anybody lost? Put your hands up if you're lost. Okay, enough people. Okay, so Blessing, are you going to explain what we've just spoken about? Because you had your hand up for something else. Yeah, I mean related, but are you willing to at least give your version of what we're talking about? No, someone else is going to, not me.
Someone else can talk.
You're not going to?
Yeah, someone
No.
else can.
Okay. So who wants to give us sort of a summary besides Curtis? Anyone? And then we'll come back to Blessing. Do you want to have a go? Okay, Aaron's going to have a go. Then Blessing will have. So what we're talking about the necessity of putting something after ideology. We're talking about it can't be the word anything. So I'll leave it there. Oh, no.
You gave it all away.
Yeah.
So Andres agrees that the ideology is of something specific. But he doesn't see the necessity of making it specific, making it specific in the title. Because he said he agrees with ideology of something specific, but he says we don't need to name it because the context of the story forces us to put it in a certain the context forces us to make it specific. I think that's what I got from him.
Okay. So I'll give Curtis a go. And then anyone else before I ask again if that's helped.
So, yeah, as Aryan said, the conversation is whether that second phrase is necessary to our discussion, the phrase of something. And then, as Aryan said, the premise from Andres, I think, is that the control woman, the context of the story implies that we're talking about something specific. You don't need to write it. And so the other perspective is that if you just have ideology generically, so the example that was given was pride. That pride could be the pride of the state if you just had it as ideology. It could be something that the state generates on its own. But the question that we're trying to ask or answer is there an entity that has its own ideology and comes to the state and says, I want you to take I want to weaponize my ideology by using you. Which is different to the state generating something on its own.
Put your hands up if you still don't understand. Be honest. You fixed it? Okay, so anybody want to say something? Okay, so blessings what from before or now? Okay, so hold your thought. So I want to ask. Now I want to ask Emma something, not you, not the other way around. So if you give the mic to Emma. So if we didn't catch it, I'm not saying Andrea said it, but I kind of proposed it. Remember I said you've got two options, one or two, when I spoke to him. What has been described now, what we've been looking at is option 2. What's option 2, Emma? If you don't know, I'll just say.
Sorry, I was going to say something completely different. That's why my mind's working on a different train.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said.
So.
Okay, stop there. Aileen, just shout out. The option 2 is what? Okay. So I won't repeat that, but I'm going to hold that thought. If Emma doesn't say it, I'll say it. Go. What's option 2?
Option 2 is the
That's what she just said, is it? Entity that comes and controls the state. Or is that option 1?
Option 2 is that there are 2 separate entities. Okay. Option 1 is what? One entity. Emma, everyone's agreed that it's option 2. There are 2 of them. They just described it. Everybody said it's okay now.
So
1 second.
okay.
Even Andrea said he agreed with it. So you tell me, how do you know it's not option 1? And I'll describe option 1. The state is having a bad day, and he says, I've had enough of this. Tomorrow, we're going to have a new chapter. And I'm going to stop being soft. And now we're going to have some tough love in this country. And the state then has its own new ideology. One entity that changed its mind, that is now controlled by anger, not gentleness. Not anger, force. How do you know this isn't that story? That it's 2, not 1.
But I was going to make a different point, I think. So I'm not sure if you do know. No, you do know in this story that it's 2, I think. But the point I was going to make is
Not the point. Tell me how you know.
Because there's 2.
Okay.
Because of what we've said about the woman controlling the beast. That there are 2 symbols. There is an outside entity in this story that comes from the beast.
The woman is just an ideology. Take the word just. Woman is ideology. Can you not gravitate back to 1?
Yeah.
How do you know it's not 1? How do you know she's a separate entity?
So that was connected to the point I was going to make, I think. Can I just make my point? So
Just answer my question.
I don't think you do.
So
If
how
you
do you
don't-
know it's option 2 and not option 1?
You don't.
So you don't know.
No.
Okay. Who knows?
If the second,
Oh, sorry? If you don't know, I'll pass it on to someone else that knows.
I thought I just said it was the fact that it has to be another entity to control. If you put something in there, I thought that was the 2 options we're looking at.
I asked you how you knew, and you said you don't know how you know.
When I answered there's 2 entities, you're saying it's the woman. Which is ideology, yeah.
How do you know the woman is an entity, not just an ideology?
Because of the context of the story.
Which symbol you're picking up that tells you that?
Okay, pass it to someone else, then I'll make the point.
Is that?
Well, I was thinking that to control means that there is force. And how can an ideology of itself force you to something? Then you have it yourself, this ideology. It cannot force you otherwise. So there must be something that forces you, that controls you.
I'm a nice person. I was forced by my better nature to behave badly.
Didn't you make that decision yourself then?
That's the point.
So then there's no force, is it? You yourself did it.
Yeah, but I can force myself to do things.
No, I don't. I think we think in a different way about that.
Just want to make sure that we're all thinking about it in the right way, so that we can be sure that there are two things really.
Yeah, I would say it's because of the force that's there.
Okay.
And if you're forcing yourself, you're kind of wanting it. You think this way that it's good.
That's it. Okay. We'll go over there, Charity. Anyone else over there?
I was thinking the symbols of that are presented in Revelation 17 are the ones that help us. The symbols make a distinction between the entities. There's the woman and the beast. They're two different entities as the figures.
My question is, how do you know the woman's an entity?
Because she sits on the beast.
One second. Let's have a go. Oh, you finished? I don't know if she's finished. Have you finished, and pass it?
I think now there's a confusion between the two symbols. We have two symbols, a beast and a woman, but now I think we're discussing that the woman is actually split in two as well. That the woman is actually consists of two things as well, an ideology and an entity that needs to force that ideology on someone.
I'd go with that, but someone might disagree. Okay. We'll do Tamina, then Emma, then Curtis, then someone over here. Oh, then Monica, then okay. We'd have to go over time because we're already past time now. We can go over. Okay. Oh, and okay. Let's just go to Blessing first. Sorry, because that was a question. I don't want to. He'll forget it otherwise, and I'll forget it. Then we'll carry on our discussion.
Mine was a comment, though, not a question.
Okay.
Okay. I had wanted to comment earlier using Revelation 17 and Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Can't you hear me?
It's because there's an echo. That's the other reason. It's not you. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Yeah.
So what do I do?
Ecclesiastes. You can't do anything. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse
18 to 21. So I'll just summarize what I'm getting from there is that people equals beasts. They're the same. And what you have in Revelation 17 is a juxtaposition. Two things are being forced into the same proximity, a person and an animal. And you can see characteristics that are similar on both sides. So the point I'm trying to make from that is that animals actually have agency. They have a will of their own. And when a person rides an animal, like a person riding a horse, the horse is fully capable of going where it wants. But in this context, another agent is directing where it should go. I'll add to that, against its will. So the animal is doing the will of another. And that other is actually embodied. It's an entity.
But just stop there. So, what's Ecclesiastes chapter 3?
People and beasts are the same.
Ecclesiastes 3:18 to 21
Yeah.
says a beast equals a person.
Yes.
Say
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I got that. Now we're back in Revelation 17,
Yes.
and that says a beast. I'm not going to say he's human, has agency. And what does that mean?
It has a will of its own.
Okay. So agency means will. Think for itself.
Yes.
Is everybody okay so far? Okay. 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 That's, I apologize. I got there. Next step.
Person has agency.
So a person has agency.
Yes.
That's just a concept. There's nothing to do with the story itself. That's just a statement.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, that's just a
Yes,
statement.
yeah, based on the natural.
When you say a beast has agency, what is a beast? Literal beast.
An animal, yeah.
Literal. Okay, so that's not the beast of Revelation 17.
No, I'm not making application yet. I'm just taking natural concept. Sorry.
Okay, so an animal, based upon Ecclesiastes 3, has a will of its own. And an animal is a symbol of a person. So people have their own free will. We're okay so far?
Yes.
Okay. Next.
So I was saying, in the natural, a beast has agency, a will of its own.
I want to call it an animal.
Yes, an animal. And a person the same. A will of its own. And what's happening in Revelation 17?
Stop.
Okay.
In Revelation 17, is that beast, I'm going to call it a symbol of an animal because it says beast.
Yes.
Okay. So the beast of Revelation 17 is an animal. And the next step is?
In Revelation 17?
Carry with your logic.
I was saying the woman overrides the will of the animal.
So the woman controls the will of the beast. That we said?
Yeah, controls the animal.
Animal.
And I'm saying the woman is exercising her will to override the will of the beast.
How does this prove that the woman is an entity, not a concept?
So the woman and the beast have the same properties.
So I want to stop there. In Revelation 17, the beast, which is a symbol, is actually an animal. I call it in real life, but it's a symbol of something with agency. And a woman in real life is a person, and that also has agency. So the symbols themselves, an animal and a human, because in real life they all have certain properties, the symbols direct you to the fact that the woman has to be a person, which means it's got agency, which means it thinks for itself. Okay, so that means the woman, I'll say it this way in quotation marks, is a person who thinks for themselves or who has free will and agency. So the symbols themselves force you to come to the idea that they are entities. They're not concepts.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Any more?
That's all.
Okay. Over there?
Oh, sorry, maybe one more
That's
thing.
what they were saying.
One more thing.
Sorry?
So for me, the woman is the something.
Is the something.
Yes.
Okay, so we can't just say ... but it's the ideology of the woman, which I've just heard whispered. I've got to get translated. You okay? You can't just say ... it's the ideology of the woman. That's what we've been saying. I'm not saying he did a brilliant job or anything, but I was looking for a proof, whatever that proof would be. And it felt to me that the answers that I got previously didn't reach that bar. They were circular arguments, really. But please, I want to give you an opportunity to express yourselves again or tell me off. I don't mind which. Tamina, then the others, then Monica, and then Vidin too. Oh, okay. Who's speaking?
So at the beginning, you made a point about not using the dispensational application before understanding the panoramic. And I don't know if it would help when Andreas was speaking. I was thinking, I wonder if we're doing that with this. So when Gail said USA for the beast, we said you have to go back to the beginning and see beast, beast, beast from the beginning. And you connected the woman to the daily. And I don't know if some of the confusion for Andreas is because we already have that at the back of our heads. So I don't know if we need to go back to that before we even look at the woman.
I'll put your hands up if you don't know what Emma's talking about, because I don't.
Okay.
Sorry. What are you, is it either a statement or a question? I don't know what you're saying. Because you said maybe we're doing something wrong. Is that me?
Yes, maybe we're doing something wrong.
What?
That we've not gone back to the beginning instead of focusing in. I know we're not talking about interpretation. But we're all bringing previous understanding.
Like what?
So when Andreas gave the example of...
No, not Andreas.
Okay. About the daily... Well, I guess that's the controversy, is that it's one or two. It's two in this chapter, but it was one before entity.
Where was it one before?
Not in this story.
So it wasn't one before, it was never one.
Not with the woman, no. Not with the woman in the beast picture. We don't know what it is.
In chapter 2, it was in Daniel 2, it was never one. It just looked like one.
Right.
So I still don't understand what the point you're making.
So I don't know if it would help to understand that first. It's okay. Okay. Park that thought.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, no, over there. No? I want to apologize if I dissed anybody or I did something wrong. It wasn't intentional, honestly. Okay, Monica, then Vadim. Too late. Sorry.
I have a question maybe connected to what Emma was saying, but I had a question before.
One question.
I don't fully understand how we can see two entities. Nerozumiem plne tomu, ako môžeme vidieť dve veci. When we were looking at Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, keď sme sa pozerali na Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grécko a Rím, we would say for church and for the state, we would say Church of Babylon, State of Babylon, Church of Medo-Persia, State of Medo-Persia. I can't fully see how this is a separate entity that controls the state.
Is that your question or?
I am confused over this.
Is that your question? You can only do it with Revelation 17. Without Revelation 17, you're stuck. All you have is Daniel 2, feet of iron and clay. You can't trace back through the statue. You already knew that. So what's your confusion or your question?
When we were talking about ideology of something,
For me, this something in this case will be the ideology of the state.
So this was my question, which I wanted to get settled. So when I asked the question, I asked various people to show me why it has to be two separate entities. And I know they said that whatever they said, but it didn't resonate with me. Maybe that's just my fault. I offered something, and what I offered was Ellen White tells you there's two separate things. She says it's church, which is a thing, an entity, not a concept, an idea. So if you're going to use Ellen White as your proof, it's a done deal. You've proven it's two separate things. The problem is, do you trust Ellen White? And I don't mean that in a silly way. What I mean by that is, you are on thin ice, you're on dangerous ground if you're going to use her as your evidence. So I could offer you several several spirit prophecy quotes that would show it's two separate things. I was looking for something more. So Blessing said, which he used logic and rhetoric. I'll just say logic. And what he took us through was to say that it didn't say a car and a lawnmower. It said a beast and a woman. And those things were chosen carefully. So I'm going to do a symbol of a symbol. A woman is a human being. It's not something else. It's not an inanimate object. It can think. It's living. And therefore, it has capabilities and powers. Then he said, a beast is just an archaic word of animal. And they will have the same properties as well. And therefore, if you have these two symbols, the symbols have to mean something. So we've gone from a singular concept, which was control, to the choice of symbols. We call them symbols one. There are two elements now. The choice of the symbol and the concept of control. And if you do that, then you're forced to get to a place where you see that the woman symbol is not a concept, it's an entity. Yeah? So I was looking for something like that we can prove, we can be sure that it's an entity. And by the time you've done that, which you didn't do yesterday, which we didn't do yesterday, you're forced to put that something there. You don't have a choice but to put it there. And if you do that, then what he said yesterday, that the something is the important thing, not what they believe. Okay. Does that answer your question? What does it not answer? Monica said no, it didn't answer a question.
I think that would be for longer.
Have we not proven to your satisfaction
Neprav.
that there are two separate things, entities? Your answer is no. Okay. Vadim, he's going to sequester his time for us. We've gone way over time. Thank you for everybody who remained online with us. Thank you for your patience, everybody. We'll talk about it after the meeting, I'm sure. I'll recap this at our next presentation, but hopefully we're getting to a clearer understanding and we're on the same page. Let's pray. Holy God, I want to thank you for allowing us to come together to share our thoughts and ideas together, and that we can be certain of what we believe. May each of us have confidence in your word as we lean more heavily upon its explanations and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen.